honestly. Like
that got Aussie out of his chair. Normally he's Aussie's rooted to his chair unless one of three things happens. The cat just unplugs his computer somehow.
yeah. There's a
Pizza,
rugby match.
yeah, pizza at the door,
Yeah.
or he has to attend to something else,
Yeah.
an actual human being.
An actual human being. So for those who might see this out there somewhere, and maybe we should share this, guys. Jump over to Twitter, LinkedIn.
I'm gonna retweet right now.
Thank you. We decided to do the Friday free for all just for shits and giggles because so much happens in this space, and this week in particular, I think all three of us got triggered at the sheer volume that we're like, if we wait till Tuesday, we're like old heads. If we wait till Tuesday, we might as well just be straight up boomers reporting on the news that happened last week. And all the young whippersnappers are like, that's so last week. So we're here. So guys, like, tell me what's going on, because I have my own stuff about what's going on with Degen, Pepe. You guys have your own stuff about what you've been seeing with Jerome. Tristan was obviously Johnny on the spot. And Roger Williams and Tristan are like, they're lurking. You guys are on LinkedIn more than you probably, like, it might be like an unhealthy Twitter level of obsession.
Okay, so I've met Roger. Roger and I did a podcast together, so I feel like he's a human being because I saw him move a little bit. And Tristan and I have like talked a little bit, so I've seen him move side to side. But if not, I wouldn't be unconvinced that they're not just AI. You know, what do you think? A new conspiracy theory that if you only know someone from LinkedIn, they're just an AI bot.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
100%. So this is the Friday feed for all, guys, because there's so much going on. So start us, Austin. You start. What are you seeing in your sphere that you're like, oh my god, like we can't wait another week? We got to talk about this.
Well, I mean, we've got the SEC being ordered to answer Coinbase in 10 days.
So summarize this for the layperson.
Yeah, so Coinbase has to basically send back the love letter. Take it from that standpoint. They've got slipped a note and they have to return it.
Coinbase did? No, the SEC got slipped a level.
The SEC has to,
Yeah. Do you like me too? Check yes. Like the SEC's writing back to Coinbase and going, check which you are, yes or no. I'm a commodity. I'm a security.
We still have no idea.
We still have no idea. Tristan says all deep fakes on Zoom calls. I can verify this. All of my Zoom calls with Tristan, he has the oddest backgrounds, and I'm like, where are you at? Like so it's definitely AI. But go ahead, Aussie. What's kind of going on with this response?
Well, in some ways, if you're very optimistic, it could mean we could have regulatory clarity in the US on what cryptos are security and what makes a crypto a commodity in 10 days. Without legislation, without anything.
Crazy.
Just with the answer to this petition.
Now, who was the responsible one that had that forced the SEC's hand? What part of government said, no, you have to respond?
A judge in court.
So it went to court?
Yeah. Judge in court ordered them to respond.
So this is interesting. So apparently there is a judge who was probably over the Wells notice information or this case that is forming. The SEC, for them to serve a Wells notice, has to have a judge involved. And so Coinbase responded with their video. Did either of you actually watch the Brian Armstrong video?
I haven't. The 14-minute one. If you both watched it, I'd love a TLDR of it. I need to watch it anyways because I think it's a huge moment in crypto. Yeah. And I think that Coinbase and especially Brian Armstrong and Brad Garlinghouse, Coinbase and Ripple respectively, I just think they've always dealt with the government in the best of ways. And there are other people who deal with the government in not the best of ways, but I think they've tried to be the most courteous to the legacy bureaucratic system, which I'm sure is just like grinding teeth to get through,
Oh, yeah. So, Aussie, do you feel equipped to answer like kind of the TLDR on the video? It's our girl. What? I think this is the first time I've seen Lindsay jump on and give us a shout. Good morning, girl. How are you doing? Dude, your Instagram is litty. Like, I love
your Instagram.
Okay. She kills it.
Lindsay, if you haven't been around, this is Grant. This is the CDO speaking to you at 10 a.m. Eastern time, almost 10 a.m.
Friday, May 5th,
the year of our Lord. CDO, the Chief Degen Officer of Not Crypto Bros. I think I'll have the resident Bitcoin maxi, the RBM, and I don't know what Aussie's will
RBM.
be.
Your resident Canadian who thinks like an American,
No,
who
no, no, no.
understands
The
America
resident
better.
Canadian, the
American?
resident Canadian American commentator.
Yes, that's a better way of saying that.
Specialist. She says, somehow I made it to LinkedIn, dragged herself away from the gram for you all, and we are honored. Lindsay, this is just a Friday feed for all because there's so much news going on. So this judge forces the hand of the SEC to actually respond to Brian Armstrong's comments. So I'll just give it real quick. If you didn't watch it, to those watching or to you, Dents, Brian Armstrong, it opened with the chief legal officer. Forgive me, I forget his name, but he's a super sharp dude. And he opened with, hey, this is to the committee, I guess, over the SEC Wells notice overseeing our case. We respect you. Thank you so much for signing this. I'm going to turn this over to Brian Armstrong. And Brian Armstrong won me over in 2 minutes or less. I've thought of this guy as like the big dog, the institution. But he spoke from the OG, from his origins. He himself coded the first iteration of Coinbase. And he was talking about from his early days, he said from the earliest days I was engaging with regulators and congressmen and women to define what this means because I knew this was the future and I wanted to be the most legit form of crypto because I knew how degen the crypto space is. And he said, I have engaged, and he started listing people that he engaged with and people that he talked with. It was very encouraging. And I was reminded of this one thing. Every institution that you look at today, they've become a powerhouse, and degens and crypto and Web3 people are like, damn the man. But I was reminded of this one fact, which isn't always true, and it's this. Every institution, every big company is a small business that made it. It's a small, and they might have gotten twisty as they've gotten bigger, but at some point in their iteration, they were a small, hopeful company. And, you got BlackRock, and you're like, wait, we're way out of touch with people like BlackRock and Capital One and Bank. Yes, we're way out of touch from our origins. But Coinbase isn't. It's still got the CEO who originally founded it. They still have early origins. They've made mistakes along the way, but I still think they're doing very good. So this video won me over very quickly, and I believe this video, did you guys see the Gensler response?
No, if it's Gensler in a shoebox in a really dark room, like rubbing his face with like a red tie, like that.
Aussie, we're not talking about the AI remake.
that would be like Alex Becker, like an Alex Becker kind of background with Gensler there.
I like Alex Becker.
I know, but I like his backgrounds on all of his videos are always like very moody and like
he did
like that's Gensler.
And Paz is in here. She's like, no, Grant, I avoid Gensler at all costs. Now, sidebar, Aussie, I don't know if you've had the pleasure to yet talk to Lindsay. One of the sharpest people I know. She's in marketing, but she comes from, and Lindsay, I'm going to butcher this. I think she has like an analytics, digital analytics, computational analytics background from Carnegie Mellon. Super sharp. She and her husband both went to Carnegie Mellon. Super sharp people that ended up in marketing. But yes, we generally avoid Gensler at all costs, but Gensler put out, oh my God.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No.
See, this right here is why I think we almost need to drop the audio, because if you're listening to this on audio, we just sound like we're a bunch of ADHD kids that are like also snorting probably cocaine, because we just go from topic to topic.
Bear.
But Tristan just drops in the most ridiculous comment. It says, y'all see they dropped a Gensler skin in Sandbox?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
A bunch of Genslers walking around being like,
I almost want to get one.
Yes.
If people don't know, on other shows that I'm on, I'm considered the person that probably won't be allowed into the US based on all of the comments I've made about Gensler.
Yeah, man. So Gensler did a response and it was cringe. I think they pulled it down. I saw it and it was like, hey guys, and he was trying to be like the cool, fun guy, and it felt like he was trying to make fun of Brian's authenticity, Brian Armstrong's, and he's like, I've got 4 responses for you, and it was recorded in the same style with the white background. He was sitting at the camera. He's like, number 1, he's like, you don't work with the SEC. You're the subject of action by the SEC. And he said it with a tone like, don't you know this? Like, if you're coming at me, you should know that we're a legal taking organization. And it was like, But it was overly complex and not humorous at all. And he went through his points like this, and you're like, bro. And I think all of these contributing factors led to this judge going, you've got 10 days. It's down to what, 8 days now? They have 8 days to
9, I think I think
it was yesterday.
Yeah, I think it came out yesterday.
So we could have a definition of terms in 10 days. What does this mean? Is good or bad, Jared?
Well, I assume it's also 10 working days, right? So that's government speak for 2 weeks, right? So it's 14 human days.
I don't get excited.
14 crypto days. Okay.
Yeah.
So, next Friday, you're not going to have
crypto
the answers.
years. Let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, well, before I answer this, Grant, the other thing I was just thinking is like, I'm waiting for the time when Gensler gets caught in a hot mic because he's in like a dive bar in DC. And he's just like, yeah, dude, I had my PEPE, but then I lost my seed phrase.
He's got DJ coins.
Yeah, but I'd already put down on my house using 20x leverage now on crypto.com because, PEPE. Yeah. And like I'm just waiting for
me and my boys launched JuCoin. Did you see that? It's like,
whoa,
bro, too soon.
Dude, any coin.
Did you see JuCoin? This was bad. This was toxic, bro.
Dude, no thing is safe now. They're going to be coins for everything. Nothing is safe. But sorry, Grant, can you repose the question? I was just thinking about Gensler and a dive bar.
So do you think this definition of terms, like seriously, do you think the definition of terms is going to be helpful or hurtful to the crypto cause? With either definition.
Yeah, so let's live in the world where Bitcoin is just the commodity, right? Because I think it's really is the only one that passes the Howey test. And then all the other coins are everything else, altcoin, shitcoin, however you want to refer to it, becomes a security. The second that happens, I think it changes things drastically in the short term. In the long term, at least we have clarity. So in a year or two, like for the next bull run, it will be way better. But in the short term, I think it will cause a lot of chaos because then a lot of these are unregistered securities. If they're securities and they're unregistered, then they're unregistered securities. And the second you're doing that, you're in a big world of hurt. Now, the thing I'm most interested about is not on the crypto front because I could go through the list of the top 20 and they're all positioning and pivoting and they have legal counsel and they're $1 billion, in theory companies. I'm worried about the NFT market because the second that they happen, Bored Ape Yacht Club becomes an unregistered security because it's built on the back of Ethereum and it gets really funky for those. And like, if you look at something like World of Women, for example, they're a pretty big project, but I don't know if they have the legal chops to be able to take down the government or fight the government.
Most NFT projects don't.
Exactly.
I think I'm going to just hop in right here and say not only NFTs, but also coins. Most DeFi projects die. And I'm not talking about meme coins or shit coins or anything, just legitimately DeFi projects. Those all die almost instantaneously. Most NFT projects don't have the money. You've got maybe Yuga Labs who has the money and maybe one other one, like maybe a couple others, that have the money to fight something like this.
Sure.
So most NFTs die. And then maybe you've got a few of the top 20 coins that are maybe founded with teams that are outside the US. And so anything that's maybe founded with teams outside the US, they essentially just put a address block on their website, and then they're technically not being offered to US investors.
The answer is I think it gets funky for the short term because we haven't been here before.
Sure.
It's been still a wild west situation.
Yes.
But the other thing, so there's a couple things. Like the second you say Bitcoin's the only commodity and everything else is securities, if that's what happens, you have what's going to happen to the individual projects. Right? They have to register now. Are some going to say we literally maybe number 300, 400? Like honestly, to go through the registration process is too much of a financial burden for us. Let's sell immediately. Tank the coin, close shop. We're going to take ours and screw it, whatever, we're done. Right. You're going to have to make a calculation there. Mm-hmm. And then for the other ones that are higher up, they're probably going to have to register. That's going to be a process. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with coin prices in the middle, if they freeze or what happens. And then there's the whole thing of what happens to the exchanges, right? Gemini yesterday said that they're making something offshores, probably to literally avoid or have that 6-month bridge where they can still operate, but the end consumer doesn't really recognize that there's a change, but they're freaking out in the background. Coinbase has also done the same. They've brought their stuff offshore. Binance.us, I don't know what happens because they already have Binance.com. I don't know if we filter over there. I do not know what happens there.
They might already be registered for all we know, though. That's why they could be why they spun off.
But Binance US would still be in trouble because Binance US has gotten in trouble.
Exactly. Binance US was created in 2019, 2018 because Binance.com could no longer, basically was welcome to operate the way they were. Because back in 2017, I had access to like 400 or 500 coins through Binance.com. And then 2019, I had to change over. And then all of a sudden I had access to like 30 or 40 coins. And they were honestly less juicy coins if you're looking in the altcoin game. So there's like what's going to happen to the individual projects. Then there's what's going to happen to the projects that are built on these projects, meaning a lot of NFTs, whether they're on Solana or Ethereum or Polygon. Then there's what's going to happen to the exchanges. So there's cascading levels, which I think just leads to 6 months of chaos. And like we always say on this show, in chaos, there's opportunity, and opportunity, there's chaos. So if you have money on the side and you can see something and you can use a KuCoin, you can drop a VPN. I'm not saying you should do this. It's not financial advice, but also you're outside the United States. So you're outside the reach of Gary G. I think it's going to be a time where crazy things are going to happen. But, in the long term, we'll look back and be really happy. I've always said regulation is acceptance, and everyone's like, oh, what happens when the government comes in? And like, dude, no. But I'm also open to the idea that the U.S. government right now has no idea how to deal with technology. They're having Microsoft and Google come to the White House to be like, hey, how do we deal with AI, right? They need to be having Coinbase, Ripple, whoever else they want to bring in, the Winklevoss twins, Gemini, whoever else they want to sit at that table and say, how can we look at crypto from a way where we're staying open to the possibility and its potential? Because if we, meaning the United States, start to curtail and step away from crypto and come with fear and instead of abundance, we're going to be crippling the country because all like Coinbase is going to leave, Gemini is going to leave. They're all going to leave, as they should.
All innovators, anyone who wants to build in the crypto industry will just pack up and leave. Go to El Salvador. El Salvador you can literally live for probably a tenth of what you're living on here in the US. They're not charging taxes on any tech innovations.
It's incredible.
And
how's the Wi-Fi though?
Oh, I'm sure it's
Starlink.
Good. Yeah, I'm sure it's
Starlink.
I'm sure it's fine. And actually, this is we'll take this moment here, this El Salvadorian moment, brought to you by Austin Rickley, the chief America interpreter.
The chief Canadian American interpreter.
Exactly, American interpreter. We are planning a trip for December. We will have a stringent process to apply. It will take you days. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, look out for that. We're gonna plan a trip to El Salvador probably in December, early December. Do you want me to read? I want to read Roger's comment if you want to throw it back on the screen. He says, "I feel people chase trends, and now we see tokens taking off again. Everyone is dropping their NFTs, but we need to regulate tokens so we can control them. PEPE is going to hit." With a regulatory hit, just like the Bored Ape. Yeah, I mean, PEPE is at $1.2 billion right now, and yesterday it was at 500 million. So
just got listed. Here's the announcement.
It just got listed in a lot of places.
It's on crypto.com.
And it's sneaking onto Binance.com. Like I always say, this quote from Jeff Bezos.
Austin is meditating his FOMO away.
The thing is,
I'm meditating my absolute frustration with the maturity of the crypto market.
Frustration with it. Well, here's the thing. I go back to the Jeff Bezos quote, and this is one of the. I don't really have a lot of Jeff Bezos quotes, but this is the quote that I come to.
This is the one.
This one is that he said, and this always sticks with me. He's like, if it takes you 15 days to build your business, to launch it, to bring it to market, it will take you 15 days till it's nothing. And PEPE has been growing now for about 4 to 6 weeks, maybe. Right. And I don't know where the top is, but if the top hits and regulation comes and this all gets crazy because of this notice with the SEC and Coinbase, so we're in mid-May, I could see by like mid-June it being under 200 million market cap and everyone just complaining they got wrecked. Because $1.2 billion has been pumped into this thing that has absolutely no utility. You can tell me it has utility. I'll wait. And it's just kind of crazy. Oh God, here we go. Another DJ in the comments.
NLC,
that's my girl.
NLC, what maturity? Have you been on crypto Twitter? Yeah, Aussie, I agree. You're in a sandbox with 5-year-olds asking them to behave.
Yeah.
And they're all wearing Gensler skins.
And meanwhile,
Yes.
gleaning degen nuggies from them while they're spouting off. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Someone just mentioned the Yellen coin. I'm in. Like, I mean, the Jesus coin, that came and went pretty quick. Wojak. Like, I mean, so like I find nuggies in the sandbox of the degens. But I think I think we should nurture and protect a degen heart. I think there's a lot of.
This is
So
the
you
most.
want to protect. You want to encourage gambling. Is what you're saying. You want to make the U.S. a nation of gamblers.
Grant,
That's not that binary.
Grant, you have next level identity struggles these days, man.
No,
It's next level.
No, I'm
CDO
integrated.
right here.
No. So I don't have
Chief
these
degen officer.
false binaries. I'm an integrated person. Oh, Trump token, that would take off, by the way.
It already
Oh,
has. He
honestly,
sold out
let's launch
7
Trump
NFT projects.
Yeah, like he literally financed all of his legal cases with his NFTs. But Gensler is listed on Coinbase. I cannot believe that.
No, it's not.
No
Prove
way.
it. Link. Natalie,
No, it's
drop
not.
a
Hold on,
link.
I'm about to get on Coinbase. Hold on.
We're all gonna check this.
Is Natalie, dude, is she just trolling us? I hope she
No,
is. actually.
no, she doesn't troll, dude.
Oh, she can
So
totally
here's
avoid
what I'm
this.
thinking about this. You know how you see like a young teen and they got piss and vinegar and they're ready to rock and they're like, I want to take over the world. And in the back of your mind, you're like, do you know what it takes to build a business? And it's like, I could either kill that dream. And you're like, well, look, when they get into a business, they wreck it. They wreck the people around them. They start the next MLM or whatever that energy is. And it's like, there's a maturity that we have to act where we go, okay, how do I encourage the optimism, but educate and try to imbue it with my experience without killing that optimism? How do I give them shortcuts to, avoiding certain amounts of pain without killing that dream? That's all I'm talking about. There's degens out there, and yeah, they're doing stupid stuff. They are gambling. I don't encourage the gambling. I only think it should be less than 1% of your portfolio. And if it takes, I do. And if it's mine.
You just said, I don't encourage it, but if you're gonna do it, make sure it's at least 1%.
No,
of your
at
liquid wealth.
most. I said it, not at least.
At least.
At most,
At
1%.
least.
At least.
Minimum. If you want to play with Grant,
minimum gambling with
you
1%
wanna
of
play
your
with
net
Grant
worth.
shit.
with G Sparks.
That's my next token. Is Gensler on Coinbase or not? Did you look?
I haven't looked. I don't want to look because if I see that on Coinbase, I may have to buy at least $1 of it. I just want to buy $1 just to know what the gas fees are. Is it like 50 cents for $1?
Oh, probably easily.
It's
Okay,
ridiculous.
so what else do we have? Let's look at our list here. What else do we have? We've got. Oh, get out of my way. So we've got the
just talking while you're trying to figure out where we're
Jerome
going.
Powell. Go ahead, keep going.
Pepe, there's a guy who he had over $500,000 of Bitcoin, moved all of it into Pepe.
He's doing well.
He at least 2x'd it the last time I checked.
Nice.
And I'm like,
Nice. I'm up 250%.
CDO.
CDO.
I mean,
CDO.
if I had held diamond hands from the beginning, like it would be stupid.
What would it be? I want you to
I think
do the
I'd be
math.
up 2,000%.
20x, huh?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, but do you have the liquidity to actually be able to sell any of
Yes.
that?
The same liquidity. Yes, Gensler is on Coinbase.
Jesus.
Oh,
Christ.
You can buy it with Coinbase wallet.
Oh, God.
That's insane. That is Brian Armstrong playing with fire, dude.
I think he did
That
it.
you are asking for Gensler to slap
Grant-
you with the worst things possible.
Grant just gave him an Emmy, a Tony, a Grammy for his little 10-minute YouTube video, and then he goes and he lets that happen.
Yeah. Well, no,
Like,
I
you're
think,
gonna
I think
ask-
no, I think that was the creme de la creme. That's him putting a cherry on top, going, "Hey, we're reasonable. You're gonna be goofy. I'm putting your token on Coinbase."
Yeah, but that's the thing. He puts a cherry on top of like a $35 sundae at an invite-only dinner, but then he also has whoopee cushions on the seats. That's what the Gensler token is.
That's my game,
Yeah,
dude. That's what I'm
I-
talking
That's the
about.
CDO.
That
That's
sounds like a
CDO
good
vibes.
night to me.
I was going to say something way more inappropriate, and so I
Get
am
inappropriate,
glad.
my man.
Aussie, Grant wants you to be more inappropriate. You know,
I do. I wish you
the
were
fact that
more
you're the youngest
inappropriate.
and you're the only one using the word maturity is we don't like it.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for living on a farm and milking cows. How can you not believe the top D-Gen? That's my girl coming to got my back right here.
Top
Oh wait, she's the
G-Gen.
top G-Gen.
She's
Oh.
yeah. Come on, Grant.
How can you not believe it?
It's not
She
all
is-
about you.
Natalie is top DGen. I feel like most of our DMs are like therapy about how she needs to like see somebody about her FOMO.
Yeah. Or someone see her about her FOMO. That's okay. I got love for it. I think I heard a great quote on this about making money. So we're going to step out of DGen hood and not financial advice.
He's the
But-
most CDO, dude.
Yeah. But the quote was this, and I actually think it came from Jack Butcher. Your boy.
My boy.
Jack Butcher is the top regen, right? He's not a degen.
How are we wearing that bucket hat right now?
It's a vibe, dude. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
like-
It is a vibe, but only in the Doodles duplicator. So this quote was this: how do you make a lot of money if you have a little money? You spread a lot of little money and a lot of different things until something takes off. How do you make a lot of money if you have a lot of money? You take a lot of money and put it in few things and until it takes off. And so for people who have not hit a number, I have never hit a financial freedom number. I mean, I'm always playing with, I got to build more. You know, if I just cut my expenses to nothing, I'd actually be doing like really well. So like I always get pulled between those two. So, you know, I'm in between, but I wouldn't ever pretend that I'm near like my FU money, right? So if you are anywhere shy of FU money, have a portfolio mix. I think and I do this in my Patreon, I should just post it in Not Crypto Bros, or if we had a community, hint, 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 I would just drop it. I would just drop it in the community. He don't care. I would just drop it in the community and show you my portfolio mix. And roughly it's like 40% blue chips that are stable, and like traditional investments and all of that. Like 30% is in questionable things, but like still reliable futures. Like in crypto, it's Polygon and Avalanche, and then in non-crypto, it's like our business investments and maybe some small VC investments we've made. And then like the remainder, I think it's like 20%, right? Something like that. Grand Rising, everyone. Nice. That's a spiritual greeting if I've ever heard one. Grand Rising, bro. And then the remainder goes to like exceptionally risky things that you don't care if you lose the money. And with that smallest apportionment, not the other two, the smallest apportionment is the one that if you have not hit your FU money, if I haven't hit my FU money, I don't mind dropping $100, $100 on degen stuff, on a stock play, that's gambling. On like there's this one hedge, it hedges against it. It does puts against the treasury bond, the 20-year treasury bond. And it's a hedge play I do. And I just keep dropping money in there every time these people get goofy with the US dollar. I keep hedging. And that's like, I don't do a lot of put plays, but that's a fund that does it. That's what I do with this like risky thing. So call it, hello, is this a new season? We have to explain this for our UK sister.
Is this a new
Allison,
session? Yeah.
the title is Friday Free For All. There is so much crypto news. We just decided to jump in for a Friday sesh and hammer some stuff out. So thank you for being here. I hope you're doing fantastic.
We may or may not continue doing these.
Tell us.
Yeah,
tell
tell
us
us if you like it. The Friday free for all and Not Crypto Bros.
So Jerome Powell.
Oh.
We went up a quarter basis point. Do we care?
Aussie looks so happy to talk about Jerome Powell. He's the only Canadian who's up this early who's like, oh, we're going to talk about fiscal and monetary policy in the U.S.? Ooh.
Government policy.
Oh, God.
And are we going to hit a government shutdown in the U.S.? Go Aussie.
Okay. Oh, that's deep. That's another level. If we're talking about Jay Powell going quarter basis point on us, I mean, everybody was expecting that. Everyone was expecting quarter basis point. I think it was 90 some odd percent when you were looking on futures contracts on a quarter basis point. What I think was more interesting was just the total tone. Like some of the press release verbiage changed, which is major, and like was softened and kind of leaned towards maybe there's no more rate hikes. That was kind of, although it wasn't like he didn't rule it out. He didn't say there is no more rate hikes coming.
Okay.
he softened the language that there may not be a need for more. And
Wow.
so that's major.
What? That is major.
And then the tone of his whole answering the questions was a lot looser. So he was a little bit more
Less
casual.
of a war hawk, less of a
less of a
antagonist.
like, I'm sticking to the script. This is the script. This is the only thing. Like, this is how I'm answering questions.
Yeah.
It was a much more free flowing kind of discussion at the press conference, which
Interesting.
has been it's a total change in tone. And there's some bullish and bearish things in what he said in that answering period. He did say something really goofy, that the US banking system was fine and stable. But he also did say things like, we are not forecasting any rate cuts in 2023. And
For the rest of 2023?
For the rest of 2023.
No hikes, but no cuts.
Yeah, he said, based on potential tightening of credit conditions because of bank failures, we may not need to raise rates anymore because that might be sufficiently stringent, but they aren't ruling out that option. But that they are not, in this current forecasted scenario of inflation slowly coming down, not dropping suddenly, there's no rate cuts in 2023. And the market is still pricing in rate cuts in potentially November and December.
The market is pricing in rate cuts. Can you, for the layperson, describe how any human being can know that? How can we know that the market is... Listen, Susie over here sitting on her 401k bags is like, I'm going to go hard in November because there's going to be rate cuts. What does that sentence mean to the layperson?
So if you go to FedWatch or CMEgroup.com, CMEgroup.com, and then you go markets/interest rates/FedWatch tool.
Okay.
There you can literally put contracts on what you think the interest rate will be at any of the next meetings for the next 2 years.
So people are betting on what happens in the next few meetings.
Yeah. Like people like put contracts. And so right now I just opened up the tool on my computer and was just looking at where the contracts are. 53% of contracts are expecting rates in December of this year to be between 4.25 and 4.5 basis points.
Wow.
Which is a 3/4 basis point cut from where we are currently.
Wow. Okay.
There's another 24% that are expecting it to be at 400 to 425 basis points in December. So almost 75% of the market that are using these contracts are expecting it to be at least 3/4 of a basis point or more below current rates.
Got it. Jarrett, you had a thought there come up.
Yeah, I was going to say that they painted themselves into Jerome Powell painted himself into a box because he said at the end of 2022 that there weren't going to be rate cuts until 2024. So we knew that whatever happened in 2023 was going to be either was going to stay the same or it was going to be ascending in increase in basis points, but it was never going to be decreasing or descending. So he's kind of, I feel like he has to kind of like stick to that. But I saw a tweet the other day and I was trying to pull it up. That's what I was looking when Ossie was talking there. But it was just about how the ridiculousness of this entire thing. Since 2020, the like one-off quotes that Jerome Powell has had has just been unbelievable. Like he was like, inflation is transitory, you know? And then it was like something yesterday, somebody was like, this recession is going to be transitory. And I was like, and then I said, yeah, you being poor is going to be transitory, you know, like it just gets more and more ridiculous.
I don't think he said the recession's transitory. I think he said
he
the
didn't.
Recession's going to be, we're not going to have as bad a recession. He did say
no,
that.
I know. It was a meme saying recession will be transitory. You know, it's like your death will be transitory. Something like it's ridiculous.
Like, what is this even? What's the value of saying this?
Yeah. And like the other thing that's really tough that like the basis points happen, right? And Main Street doesn't care. Main Street doesn't know the difference. If I pull all my friends, they have no idea, right? If you talk to anyone in the state, you walk around Times Square and you just ask a a blooded American, hey, do you know what just happened? Do you know who Jerome Powell is? Probably not. Do you know what he just did yesterday? Probably no idea.
Yeah.
And if you explain it to them, it actually really wouldn't affect them today. And if things don't affect people today, they don't really care. The reality of it is these things will have, we'll feel this basis point hike in the next 3 months as there's layoffs. And then people won't even tie it back to this. They'll tie it to China. They'll tie it to some exterior force, not an internal thing that's like we're actually trying to tank our own economy. And I just think that that's really tough to try to explain to people and to get people like excited about this. But if you're in crypto, if you're in the markets, if you're looking at these things, you really have to have like, your head on a swivel because it happens so fast and the effects are rippled. So you don't always understand that this house fell because, a butterfly flapped its wings. And this is going to be a shout out for Aussie, but you should check out Aussie's YouTube channel, Decentralized News, because he goes over this stuff weekly. And if you're trying to understand this better, and like Lindsay Possidy was like, hey, can you help me understand Bitcoin? So I sent her my Medium article. Because we all have content out there that people can reference to understand these things.
Yes.
But it's like, even if I guess I want to make I'm kind of going down like an academic thing, but like in undergrad, I did not have good grades. And I didn't have good grades because none of the stuff interested me. Even the stuff I was studying that was like part of my tract, it was still like, man, it was outdated. It wasn't what I wanted to learn about that. But in grad school, I got to choose everything that I wanted to. And I was so intentional about my courses and I got to learn what I wanted to learn. And so it was great. And I had great grades. And I just feel like until you have the context or a need to understand why Jerome Powell is doing this, you're not going to care. It's not going to affect you. And most people in the United States are not actively in the markets. We talk about this all the time. They're not active investors. They're passive investors. And they have their 401k and their house, maybe if they're lucky. And that's it. And those things are long-term plays, but they're not like thinking about the day-to-day. Anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent.
I think
here,
this is I think what you said about their houses, that's where the Americans are going to feel it. This is where the everyday American will feel it. I know I'm seeing in Canada. We haven't actually raised rates in like 3 months in Canada, but I still I'm seeing posts and I keep seeing posts about people who are on variable rate mortgages who they hit their trigger rate and now their payments are maybe double what they were when they signed this mortgage in 2020 or 2021 when interest rates
I would never do a variable rate mortgage.
Variable rate's crazy. I don't understand how people do variable rates.
Right. And the thing is in Canada now, variable rates, like normally fixed rates are more expensive than variable rates. Right now, fixed rates are lower than variable rates.
For sure, because the rates are crazy.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, like people are like, my payments just doubled and I've got a 60-year payout on my mortgage now. And that's where the American market is going to feel it. They're going to
60-year
payback amortization period because they were it was crazy. This
60-year.
They had originally taken out a 30-year mortgage, and then because interest rates, yada yada yada, and payments, they're now going to. It's now technically at an amortization period that would hit 60 years.
Who in the world would do that? That's crazy.
It's nuts, but that's where I think the average American, like, I mean. Okay, if we think a lot of houses were sold in 2021, 2025, 4, 5, 6 is when those people are going to really start feeling it, unless they're variable rates, then they're already feeling it. And then anyone that have mortgages expiring in the next year, 6 months, 2 years even, then they're going to be feeling it. They're going to see their mortgage payments jump like crazy.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna know what to do. Some of them probably won't be able to afford their mortgage payments.
Oh yeah.
And you could potentially see a glut of houses come onto the market because people just can't afford to pay the mortgage on that house anymore.
Yeah.
So I want to shift a little bit. I want to tie up what Roger's saying here because I think they're really cool comments. He said, I think that they will feel it on their 401k when they pull out and the dollar is devalued. I completely agree. I think Raoul Paul talks about that if you put the value of stocks that you have in your portfolio over the declining power of the dollar in the last 100 years, you basically have the same purchasing power, meaning that stocks compared to the increase in the amount of money, they really haven't gone anywhere. And that's why Raoul's so bullish on Ethereum, Bitcoin, and just longer hyperbolic. What's the word I'm looking for?
Parabolic.
Parabolic trend assets. I want to shift a little bit because I saw this interesting comment by Trevor Talley, who is a Aussie grant. You guys and I talked about Trevor the other day. I tagged him in a post about HR and getting into Web3 and NFTs. And we've been talking about, how do you break in? What's the path? And he posted this on Twitter, on Twitter. And he said,
on Tinder, he posted this on Tinder?
No, on Twitter. That would be kind of crazy if Tinder had a social function. He said, pro tip, don't lie during the interview. And keep in mind, this is a guy who is a headhunter for Web3. Okay. 401k is a pension plan that they made up when basically they tanked actual pension plans and they tanked actual unions back in like the 70s, 80s, Allison. It's basically, it's like buying into a basket of stocks, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah. So it's like, I forget what it's called in the UK, but I might have the same name as in Canada. It's your registered retirement savings plan. So like, your personal, like you can, sometimes it's matched by your company and sometimes it's only you, and you decide what stocks or index funds you invest in. And
it wasn't supposed to be
tax-free.
Yeah, and it wasn't supposed to be a long-term plan, but now companies just use it so they don't have to get pension, and we've tanked unions. So anyways, I want to go back to Trevor. He's basically helps people get jobs in crypto. And he says, pro tip, don't lie during the interview process. This means don't embellish, misrepresent, or pretend. If you're feeling the need to do these things, the role is probably not the best fit. Never undersell your abilities and be realistic. So I hopped in the comments. I said, sounds like you heard a whale of a tale. Someone tell you they have 15 years experience in Bitcoin? And he says, no, he says, Ella, just sharing words of wisdom with our community. Hiring managers have heard it all, and they're vetting candidates more than ever these days. I know it's not easy breaking into the space, but not being truthful catches up sooner or later. Just keep it 100. And then I added a comment because this is something that really happened when my friend Luzmaya, who's Dominican, she was working at some tech. It wasn't Facebook, and I forget exactly what it was. It was in San Francisco, but she told me this thing. She was brought in on a hiring, and this kid had put on his resume that he spoke Spanish. So I said, a friend once said when she was in an interview, a candidate said they spoke Spanish on the resume, and she starts in on him in Spanish, and he crumbled. And I just think it's like, this is where people who are wanting to get jobs in crypto or Web3, and they're just, and their only life is basically through Twitter, and they think that they can get a job from Twitter essentially because they have like 1,000 followers or something.
Yeah.
I think this is where the break in that happens, where they're going to maybe try to embellish or build up to be more than they are, even if they actually do understand crypto better than a lot of the people at Coinbase, for example. You need that proof of work. And this is something we were talking about the other day. You need these proof points. Like, we have these episodes, right, where people can go reference and be like, does that person actually know what they're talking about? Or are they just blowing smoke? This is why write a blog on Medium, and I need to get back to that. I'm telling you something I'm not currently doing and haven't done since February. Write a blog on Medium, right? Create some podcasts, talk with people, do something. You need to have a digital proof of work to kind of give that trail so someone can follow your breadcrumbs to see if you know what you're talking about. So this is kind of a shout out for people to think about their personal brands if they're trying to get hired in anything, but especially in crypto and Web3 where things are so vapid. If someone were to write an article right now comparing Pepe to the rise of Dogecoin and then making an argument for or against it, that would be like something that somebody at Coinbase would see and be like, wow, they really understand microeconomics, macroeconomics, the history of crypto, meme coin culture, where this thing could all be going. They understand some of the regulatory implications of Pepe coin, etc. So anyways, just a shout out for people to think about creating their own proof of work, whether that be in collective, as the three of us are trying to do here, or just on your own. I just wanted to shout that out.
So I want to build on that. I in talking with Owen Healy, which I think me and Jared have talked to, I don't know if Aussie has, who is a placement / recruiter for Web3, spun off on his own just a few months ago, I think. And this was, two things stuck out to me huge. Exactly. He said word for word what you just said, Jared, but then he also said, let's say that you are a marketing officer and you come at them and say, listen, there's this new token project or this new NFT project, and I've got a go-to-market strategy for the next 18 to 24 months that's foolproof. And let's say it's on point. Let's say it's on fire. That will pale in comparison that if you showed up and said, I worked at Coin Bureau and I could do an intro call. They're looking at your contact list, what in the OG we used to call a Rolodex. They're looking at your actual verifiable contact list and say, who can you put me with? So like, for example, like I've got this great interview with Art Malkoff, the $2 billion marketer next Monday. And that's phenomenal. And Jarrett, you pointed this out a little bit. Like if I wanted to really, really work in Web3, I would find a way to get these recruiters to look at my work. Because if a recruiter can go, oh, look, he actually has talked with, shook hands with, sat with, and spoken with, in this case, Art, or in her case, Lindsay, or in her case, May, or in y'all's case, Mercy Corps, Decentralized News, and they go, they might not know all these names, but they're seeing a verifiable contact list. And they're going, okay, this person is huge. And the way Owen worded it was this. They don't care where you can take them in 2 years with your awesomeness. They care who you can introduce them with over the next 2 months, because that's how fast this market is shifting. Because the entire plan will shift in 2 to 4 months. So when they ask themselves, do I hire this person? Yes, we want some skills, especially if it's technical. But like everyone wants the community management jobs, right? Everyone wants, because most people in this space are not actual technicians. They're not actually technically inclined. Most of them are like, I've known this. I'm like the humanities student of crypto. I've been here since, in my case, I've been owning some form of crypto since 2011. I've gone and closed more crypto courses than most people you know since back in 2017. And we're just now getting back into that. And so that's okay, Grant, but like, who do you know? And I know that sounds cliche and almost Web 2. But how Web3 is it for community to matter more than anything? It's actually Web3, which is like, let's make Web2 Web3 again, right? Like, I mean, that's what we're really talking about. We've gone through the washing machine cycle of getting brutalized, that we think that just decentralization, smart contracts, and trustlessness will get us there. And guess what? Daniel Sestigala at Wonderland's and Sifu is gonna run away with your money, right? Like, so how much rapport and relationship do I actually have with this network? And when they're doing these hirings, they want to see that. So I think if you're not a technician, you need to be doing a show. You need to be a content creator. And I don't care what your shtick is. I don't care what your angle is. But I think you need massive mileage under your belt from content creation, which is why I love what we do. Because it's for me, and for my future, it's my ultimate proof of work. That recruiters might want, but really, the reality is that my relationships are developing in a big way. I mean, how many of these people that have popped in have we talked in and you feel endeared to them more than the mail guy dropping mail at your house? You know,
I don't
like
have a mail
Allison,
guy dropping mail at my house.
how do you get mail, Aussie?
I gotta go pick it up in a
Storks.
box. Storks.
I gotta get on my horse and gallop down the road to the
Yeah.
intersection of I-30.
I
and
gotta
then
get on my llama and giddy up.
I put it to the
we're in
hitchy
Canada.
post.
I ride a moose in the summer and I ride a polar bear in the winter. Let's get it right here.
Aussie, if you ever have a picture of you riding a moose, I don't know
Or
how it's
polar
not
bear.
becoming a coin, moose coin.
Moose coin, Aussie coin. But it's a good call out, Jared. And I want to take that conversation a bit further and ask a question. Why does everyone think they want to work in Web fucking 3?
Because they're burnt out with their Web 2 jobs. They feel like Web 2 doesn't align with their energy or where their interests are. And so they want to build they think, you know, they enjoy themselves in Web 3, so they think they want to work in Web 3.
I will quote Owen as saying he has never seen burnout like he has seen in Web 3.
I feel like that's the thing, is people don't think they'll get burnt out working in Web 3 because they care so much about crypto, but they're probably even more likely just because it's much more of a startup environment. So there's a lot more hours, there's a lot more around the clock. It's totally different.
And a totally distributed, I just want to work distributed and remote. You guys may or may not have run businesses or may not have had jobs that that remote wasn't even an option. Oh, we lost Aussie. His cat kicked his...
Aussie's got Web 2 issues.
Web 2 issues. But like, most people don't remember working before remote was like the brass ring. But like the biggest complaint I hear today in work and jobs, the biggest complaint I hear in these jobs right now is I don't know where I stand. Do I have job security? I'm not tight. The standards and the expectations are loose and not clear. The goalpost is always shifting. Whereas when we used to meet in real life, it might have been redundant and even like grueling to hear every single day what the goal is, what the KPIs are, what we're working towards, where you stand. But there was a degree of there was seemed to be a higher degree of confidence of I know where I'm standing. I'm making it's not demoralizing. That's what I hear right now too, is like it's demoralizing because I don't ever know if I'm making any progress. Like, am I doing anything good and contributing? So I think that Web3 is like an entrepreneur's nightmare where there is no compass for up. There's just like, it's just an immaturity in the space is what I estimate. Which is why I honestly think I do want to work in Web3 because to me, I know how to fix that. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years now. And it's like, I know how to step into a place of complete ambiguity and make it solid. Like, I know how to do that. But other people, most people that are employee minded, they show up and like, why isn't anyone giving me KPIs or directions or patting me on the back? When's my review? You worked for them for 2 months and then you're fired. I mean, how many stories have you guys heard? And we all share one in the comments now who just got rolled out of a project because it's shifting. And there's no hate. It's just like, did they value me there? I don't even know. Go ahead, Jarrett.
Yeah, I think people want to work in Web3, not because maybe because they're sick of Web2, but they're sick of it's just FOMO. And what I mean is,
I agree with that.
if you're working your Web2 job, right, and you have to work at 8 hours at a desk, let's live in like, a cubicle world, like the most Web2 that we could imagine. And when we say Web2,
Sure.
8 hours a day. So from 9 to 5 p.m., there's one place you probably can't be, and that's Twitter. And then you feel like you missed out on all this stuff. You're missing 40 hours of what the community is actually talking about.
Yeah.
So I think people want to work in Web3 so they can be virtually in the spaces where the conversations are happening, where they're going to be anyway in their 5 to 9, whether that's their Discord, whether that's Twitter, whether that's even LinkedIn. We all met on LinkedIn. I mean, at least that's how I kind of met. I met Grant through YouTube, but like we really connected on LinkedIn. And then Aussie, I met you here on LinkedIn. So it's like, I think that is it. I think people are sick and tired of wasting their time in spaces where they don't see themselves in 2, 5, or even 10 years. And I know me personally, because I'm kind of in a Web 2.5 world, I now get to spend time on Twitter, and it's kind of like part of my job now where I'm engaging. We now have a Twitter account for Mercy Core Blockchain for Good. And I now get to like sit on there and DM people. And I just use my own personal Twitter because I already have DMs going with some people that we're trying to, make partnerships with. So I think it's the fear of missing out on places today that you want to be in a week, in a month, in a year. Whenever we as humans decide that we're done with whatever it is that we're done, in the past, it was like, well, okay, I work this job from 9 to 5 every day, and that sucks, and I hate this cubicle, but I want to be in that cubicle, right? And it felt super far away because it was like, I have to finish this job at Facebook before I go work at Google. Yeah. And now it's like, dude, you could be working at Facebook, but you could be in the Google Discord the entire day. And so that fear of like the identity crisis that people have, I've seen, is massive. Because you're having a different conversation potentially when you're walking to the water cooler, when you're at lunch, than you are the rest of the day. So I think a lot of it is FOMO because working in Web3 is precarious. Working in Web2, you're going to actually have a contract. Working in Web2, you're going to probably get paid more. It is startup culture, like you said, Aussie. And I think it's very precarious. So if you're going to step into it, you got to know that, you may not be there. And there's thousands of people that have worked at Coinbase that are hanging out, that are they have Coinbase on their resume, and they can't get jobs. And I met a great contact through Jess Yang down at Consensus, and this guy got laid off 3 months ago, and he still hasn't been able to get back on the pine pony. But it's tough because now he has this. Now he's worked for one of the biggest exchanges, at least in North America, probably if not like the world, one of the most recognizable brands. He's also gotten paid a shit ton of money there. So now when he goes for even if it's a startup and they want to pay him $100K, well, he's probably making closer to $200K. So now he's like, dude, I'm not cutting myself in half. Yeah. So it's very interesting when we think about Web3 and the startup culture that it is. In 5 to 10 years, it won't be that. I think there'll be slimmed down companies. I think there'll be a lot of AI, and I think a lot of it should be kind of run fairly like fluid. I think they'll be heavy in marketing and branding as opposed to like what actually needs to get done on the tech side, because it will all just kind of be, done.
And
So
I will
anyways,
tell you this, I think in the next turn that even glimpses like it's an actual bull run, you will see these companies hiring people who are skilled in leadership. I think they have, and because a lot of the organizations that will survive have survived because of investment capital, whether they're official VCs or private teams or friends and family rounds, they're gonna be like, hey, we scraped by, we stayed in business, we kept deving, good on you, but we actually don't know what's next. We don't know how to create something out of nothing. We don't know how to create a Steve Jobs distortion bubble. We don't know how to create a distortion bubble, really, because most people, A, it's the generational thing, B, it's an industry thing to be resilient and resistant to vision casting, charismatic leadership. It's just the nature, the rebellious nature, which is a feature, not a bug, of this industry, but also this generation. It's a problem. And so, but we're realizing that there are some things, there's some skins we cannot shed from Web3 wholesale, and principled, solid, vision casting leadership is a layer that will never be out of style. Now, too many strata of like mid managers and shit, like that will not be there. There'll be less layers of management, but they will be looking and paying premium for people that know how to lead, even if they're not technically inclined.
yeah, and I think the other to build on what you're saying is that I do think the next go around, Coinbase isn't going to just go hire 5,000 to 6,000 people. Right? They
I
just
agree.
laid off 5,000 to 6,000 people. I think if
I
you want to
agree.
work at Coinbase in 2025 in the next bull run, you're going to have to bring them something that is half your value and half your network. That's it, straight up. I feel like if you're in this game long enough and you build a network, there are people I know who could probably get hired at Coinbase right now for 200K just because of who they have in their DMs, straight up. And so I think moving forward for something like Coinbase with the community aspect that is here, it's going to be half your value
Yeah.
and half your network. And that's
So
an exciting place to be.
So interesting thing on this, I know a company that I'll remain anonymous, and I know an insider in that company, and it's a major tech company in the world. And they are in a customer support kind of role. And, in customer support, there's tier 1, tier 2 kind of support structures in nearly all of these companies. And then there's sales roles, right? This company started cutting their sales roles and saying, you know what, let's just do consultative sales with our support. So if someone comes in and asks for help, we can upsell additional products, additional plugins, additional tools through the support channel. And it's like, well, the temperament of people that go out for jobs of support are not sales-driven people. So it's this skill. And then on the other hand, they're saying, oh, by the way, we're kind of slimming down in our tier 1 support because with stuff like ChatGPT and AI, for most tier 1 support, we can replace. So I suddenly got this picture in my mind that support people who are generally introverted or at least a little more detail-oriented and less sales-oriented, they're now being asked to step out of this tier 1 role, put one foot firmly into high tech, so they have to get better at tech and deeper tech. Then they've got one foot planted in sales, which now they have to tap a different part of their brain. So they're almost like, let's put AI in the middle and you straddle AI, and they're not hiring for those positions. They're trimming down the staff to sustain both. And I said, you know what? They could financially, someone in bookkeeping made that decision. We can cut half our force, even get them to do 1.25% more, or 125% more, 135% more, and we'll have ChatGPT bridge the gap. But human nature is, and you could pay them more. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to have to turn over and find these diamonds in the rough. There are people that could do it, but it is a rare temperament mix. What were you going to say, Jarrett?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is something my father and I were talking about yesterday, which is like the future of work is when you add AI into it, it's like you can take workers that maybe don't have the entire, I forget what it was. My dad was telling me about this thing with the call centers he was reading about with AI. And it was like, you take a newbie and you put them into the call center, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Support people. They have, there's 15 to 20 questions that are going to be lobbied at them about anything, like about AirPods, for example.
Yeah.
Now, if you just put them cold with a book in front of them that like has all the answers, it will take them a certain amount of time to get off the ground. If you give them Chat GPT and tell them when they ask these questions, put in these prompts or something like that, and basically allow AI to support them in real time, they can get up to speed 4 or 5 times quicker. And then they're already offering the same level of quality after like a month of someone who's been there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fascinating. And what you're also talking about builds on, like, I think what Apple's always done with the Apple Store, because when you go to an Apple Store, no one is selling you anything. A lot of the people that work at Apple stores are more introverted and they're not salesy, but they want to get a job where they're dealing with people, but they don't want to sell. And so I think Apple's been kind of doing that. They started what you're talking about, this paradigm shift, a long time ago, where it was like, let the product speak for itself, give them enough tech to support, give them enough kind of like minor sales, but don't sell, and just let them interact with human beings. And when you add AI on top of that, it's like, that should be the future of customer service and support. You should call and just feel like you're talking to your best friend, and they just happen to know more than you. So, hey, Grant, like, I'm trying to do this thing with WordPress. Can you help me out? Yeah, here, let me look at that. Okay, screen share. Yep, click that, do this, done. Anything else I can help you with? It should be a more refined process, because we've all gone on calls and just been like banging our heads.
And well, I think the thing is too, is it could bring back call centers to the US and Canada. So this is because one of the big, I think there's 2 things that people hate about call centers. A, takes forever to get answers because it's a hard time flipping through the books. And B, the language barriers. The number of times the person that I'm asking the question to barely understands what I'm saying is too many times.
We have our hosting company for our website design company is hand selected as an American customer support, so that if our clients leave us, their website's still in the same host, and they're based in Omaha, Nebraska. You always get someone who natively understands what you're saying.
Exactly. So because you don't need nearly as many people working in the call center because they're supported by AI, you can afford to bring that back into the US, because you might have 10, like you might have outsourced standing up because you needed 10 or 20 or 30 people. Well, okay, maybe you don't need 30, you don't need 30 people anymore. You need 10 people. You can get 10 people who speak English and understand English well, who are from the US, and you've brought back your 10-person American customer support team, and your support reviews go up 1,000-fold because
and I know that this is the ideal. I know this is the ideal, but this is not the reality. Yeah. What I mean by that is the reality is that the employees who are being forced to go from having just refined their ability to be tier 1, maybe tier 2 support, it's almost the technology is outpacing, and we have shiny object syndrome. And by outpacing, it's not like, the tech isn't there. We all know the tech could easily handle that chat with just being fed the right FAQs, the right data knowledge database, and it really could, from now, a linguistic model, navigate that. So it will pass whatever the test was, the Turing test or whatever, like no problem now. But the employees, like we need fewer people, and it's like, no, what we're finding in this particular company, again, I won't name the company, their ticket queue has now broken a lot of their commitments to their clients. They're behind way more. Now there's the transition period. So maybe in this idealized future, Aussie, what you're saying is that's absolutely maybe going to be a cleaner model for everyone, but you're going to lose so many employees to frustration. You're not hearing me. We're the frontline people. You don't understand what we're going through. You're asking us to squeeze blood from a stone. this person asked for tech support on a very specific issue, and I have to awkwardly pitch them on something unrelated because I have sales quotas. Like, this is killing the spirit of service. And it's like, well, no, you get someone savvy who's like, hey, by the way, you could make more money if you looked at this one. I'm like, they're nailing at sales. You're asking for someone who's like, that meme, she can do both, right? Like, this idea of you want people to be extraordinary at two separate brain divided things. And it's like, well, yeah, we should be able to do that. So I like the idealized future, but I think it's going to hurt for us to force ourselves to change that way significantly.
Yeah, I've seen in Bogota, there's it's like this tech area, and there's all these companies from the United States. And I was like, oh, this is super cool. They have like their businesses down here. And I was there. There was the US consulate was there, and I was there with someone, and they were getting their visa updated. And it was just hanging around, and it's super techy. It feels like when you're in certain parts of Silicon Valley, when I was around Facebook and Google, everyone has their badges and everyone is young, and it has a certain vibe. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I was sitting eating lunch and waiting while the person was in the consulate. And I was like, hey, like, do you mind telling me what you do here? I'd really love to learn about, it was 3M. I'm like, I'd really love to learn, like, what's 3M doing here? And she was like, oh, no, I just work for a call center. Because Colombians have extremely good English as far as the Latin America goes.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know if this is because Colombia geographically is like one of the most perfectly positioned. And it just basically is kind of like Istanbul for like the way Euro Asia kind of works. Colombia is similar. It's the only country in South America that touches the Atlantic and the Pacific coast, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And so people in Colombia will speak British or US English, whereas like if you go all the way to Mexico or Guatemala, it's so far close to the United States that there's no British English. Like, students don't have that opportunity. My point being that some people in Colombia speak better English than like me.
Sure.
And they're young, and so their call centers you wouldn't even know. So I also think it's really hard to bring people into the United States right now, knowing that like that person that Grant describes who has that dual head is going to want 25 an hour. And you're not running a call center right now with 25 an hour, if not more. And it's going to break you. It's going to break you. So the economics don't necessarily align. And I also think that I've seen this village. And if you guys come to Colombia, we'll go walk around this village because it's like shocking. It is globalization literally taking place because these companies are also like, oh, the peso's dying. Yeah, we're going to send people down there, and we're going to find young kids who speak English perfectly. And they're all tech literate, because if you're under basically 30 in this world, you've been baptized in tech since you were a little kid. You don't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hit us, man. Let's wrap this up.
I guess we always do shout outs. I feel like Grant, the CDO forces us to do shout outs. So
we don't have to. We can just wrap it up.
No, I like the shout outs. Let's do it.
You like the shout outs?
It's going to make you feel warm.
Yeah. I shout out El Señor Pepe.
All right, Grant shouts out Pepe. I shout out Gensler Coin because I still haven't found it. I've been opening up Coinbase Wallet, but I still haven't found it. But that's just ridiculous. Aussie, who's your shout out?
I'm going to shout out to people who aren't getting lost in this mess of G-Chan Hood with the CDO and Pepe Coin and aren't feeling the FOMO. And I'm going to shout out Natalie, who is struggling with her FOMO right now.
Yeah, man. Well, if we wanted financial advice, save your money, only invest money you can lose, buy real estate, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I do, though. Don't watch DJ and Dad Bod, Oh, and guys, if you want to follow us at notcryptobros.x, Y, and Z. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on LinkedIn, and we'll be back for our normal hour on Tuesday, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Love you guys. Thanks so much.